Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, or Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, and verse number 2. This is called Karma Yoga, or action in Krishna consciousness. Oh, okay. Hare Krishna. So we still have, the temple is still, it's open, but it's not open for programs yet, because we have we're not open for public programs, basically, because there's a strict 2 meter rule that you can only, means that we can only get about maybe 10, maybe 15 people in maximum. So if you have a public program, then 20, 30 people will come, and then 30 more will come for the feast. And so they can't even do that in the big Christian churches. So our little tiny temple room, I don't think we'd be within the law to do it. So but it's nice to have this 4, 5 people here. So that's fine. Also, today is yesterday was the disappearance of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, who was an unbelievable devotee of Krishna, of Srila Prabhupada. I've been hearing all the different, so many different devotees around the world, all the senior devotees, actually even at this minute they're speaking in glorification of an amazing devotee. So if you do get a chance to, people who don't know Bhakti Charu Maharaj, it would be good to just check out some of his Facebook page, the YouTube, because there's some amazing testimonies of how powerful a devotee he was. I mean, he was actually a GBC here at one time for a year, with a co-GBC with Preeti Prabhu. And I remember him actually giving a Sunday feast talk in Dublin. It was over in Temple Bar. And I remember actually driving him around as well, from here to Inishrath and back down again. At the time I had an old red van, and he was the GBC, so I was a little bit kind of anxious, because I was bringing him around this kind of rockety van, but he says, don't worry, I'm travelling in India a lot, so this is not a problem. And yeah, that's right. I know it's this. Yeah, that's right. There was only one at the time. It was incredible. But I remember also that the time when we were we were just looking to buy a new temple in Dublin all that time ago, and I remember bringing him up to see a place at the top of Camden Street. I think it's Clanbrassil Street, just before you get onto Rathmines, and it was next door to a kebab shop, and. He kind of looked at it and he said, I don't think that's really the best place we should be looking, And but then if you go over the bridge there, you see this big green dome, and it's one of the biggest churches in Ireland, in Rathmines. And he says, what about over there? What about that one? So he was kind of training me to sort of look in a slightly different way for what Krishna's temples would be like. He came a few times then after that. He cooked for us. Shani's here. He cooked for us, and he showed you what to cook that time as well. And he made that ginger paneer. I still remember it to this day. So it was quite amazing. how do you?
Ginger paneer.
Yeah, like paneer with ginger sauce.
Oh, right.
Yeah, like normally we have. It's a curry paneer. Okay, I like the curry paneer actually because we're used to the tomato paneer. But he was a famous cook because he used to cook for Prabhupada as well, and but that's only kind of even tiny little bit about what he's done. I mean, what he's done for ISKCON is incredible. I mean, I went there in 2016, and he was the chairman of the GBC, and he just gave an incredible talk about the importance of ISKCON and the importance of how we're actually worshipping Prabhupada by maintaining ISKCON and by developing ISKCON. Basically, he was such a like in so many instances, he held ISKCON together from a lot of different disciples, all the devotees of Srila Prabhupada, but he always made sure that they were always one in behind ISKCON, and that's why they kept on making him the chairman of the GBC all the time, because he was so good at keeping everybody very enthused in Krishna consciousness. And one devotee called him this morning the supreme peacemaker. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall inherit the earth, or something like that, But anyway, that was just, I just wanted to say a few words, very small amount, but I know there's different celebrations going on at the moment, and celebrations is not the word, but it's glorifications of Bhakti Churu Maharaj, and we have some of the disciples here in Ireland who are obviously experiencing a huge loss. But still, it's we were just coming in the van today, and we were listening to just before Maharaj left India for America. It was just a 2.5 minute little clip about why he left, and it was like he was like a general going into battle. He didn't want to be just in one place when there's so much preaching to be done. So he actually left, and unfortunately, Radhanath Swami, he was saying that it's like, just Prabhupada was calling him. It's as simple as that. Prabhupada was calling him, and so he's back with Prabhupada now. But at the same time, we had a wonderful kirtan yesterday, and I was actually thinking of him a lot. That he was such a positive personality, and these personalities are very powerful. It's not that once they leave their body that's it. It's almost like they're even more present because they're not confined to the body in that sense. So they were so much around the world that he was there, and so much glorification going on among all the devotees for the last 3 weeks. All the devotees are glorifying him in that way. So he's able to be very powerfully spread himself much wider than just if he was in one body in that sense. So, but his memory of his great lasting bequest, of course, is that he's the epitome of Prabhupada's words that your love for me will be shown by how much you keep this institution together once I've left. He was actually the personification of that, most important instruction from Srila Prabhupada. So we take shelter at his lotus feet. Bhakti Churu Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna. So today we read from the 5th chapter, text number 2, Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. It's a little long of a purport, but we have a time constraint as well. So, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sanyasya Karma Yogascha Nishayasa Karabhubo Tayostu Karma Sanyasyat Karma Yogo Vishishate. The personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. And the purport. Fruit of activities, seeking sense gratification, are cause for material bondage. as long as one is engaged in activities aimed at improving the standard of bodily comfort, one is sure to transmigrate to different types of bodies, thereby continuing material bondage perpetually. Srimad Bhagavatam 5:5-4-6 confirms this as follows. I'm going to read the Sanskrit because it's a beautiful cadence, I suppose is the word. Nunam pramate kurute vikarmaya idriya priteya aprinote the sadhumanye yata atmano yam asana bikleshata asadeha para bhavastavada bodha jato yavana jigyasata atmatatvam yavad kriyastava mano vitvai karmatmakam yena sarira bandhai evam mana karmavasam prayunkte avejamatmanya bhata yamanine Patir nayavan mai vasudeve namuchate deha rugena tavat. People are mad after sense gratification, and they do not know that this present body, which is full of miseries, is a result of one's fruitive activities in the past. Although this body is temporary, it is always giving one trouble in many ways. Therefore, to act for sense gratification is not good. One is considered to be a failure in life as long as he makes no inquiry about his real identity. As long as he does not know his real identity, he has to work for fruitive results for sense gratification. And as long as one is engrossed in the consciousness of sense gratification, one has to transmigrate from one body to another. Although the mind may be engrossed in fruitive activities and influenced by ignorance, one must develop a love for devotional service in to Vasudeva. Only then can one have the opportunity to get out of the bondage of material existence. Therefore, Prabhupada says, therefore jnana, or knowledge that one is not this material body but spirit soul, is not sufficient for liberation. One has to act in the status of spirit soul. Otherwise, there is no escape from material bondage. Action in Krishna consciousness is not, however, action on the fruitive platform. Activities performed in full knowledge strengthen one's advancement in real knowledge. Without Krishna consciousness, mere renunciation of fruitive activities does not actually purify the heart of a conditioned soul. As long as the heart is not purified, one has to work on the fruitive platform. But action in Krishna consciousness automatically helps one escape the result of fruitive action, so that one need not descend to the material platform. Therefore, action in Krishna consciousness is always superior to renunciation, which always entails a risk of falling. Renunciation without Krishna consciousness is incomplete, as is confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 12258. Papanchikataya bhutya bharisambhana vastuna mamukshabi parityago vairagyam phalagukaratyate. When persons eager to achieve liberation renounce things related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking them to be material, their renunciation is incomplete. Renunciation is complete when it is in the knowledge that everything in existence belongs to the Lord, and that no one should claim proprietorship over anything. One should understand that factually nothing belongs to anyone. Then where is the question of renunciation? One who knows that everything is Krishna's property is always situated in renunciation. Since everything belongs to Krishna, everything should be employed in the service of Krishna. This perfect form of action in Krishna consciousness is far better than any amount of artificial renunciation by a sannyasi of the Mayavadi school. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapatanena Bhutale Svayam Rupagata Mayam Dadati Svapatantikam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shivani Satrup Das Goswami Nitinamane Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shivani Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Pastitade Chatarine. So you may be asking why I chose this verse, which is kind of like one of those kind of heavy verses, you know. Give up sense gratification, or else you'll be born again in this world. It's the verses are in the purport it's taken from the time when King Rishabhadev is instructing his sons, and he's telling them that you should perform spiritual activities and to give up sense gratification. And Prabhupada has quoted this verse a lot, you know. How much? A lot. He's quoted it on many, many occasions because he really, really wants to get that point across, that sense gratification. I mean, I must say that even when I heard the word sense gratification originally, I didn't really know what is sense gratification. What's this about? You know, I mean, how do you distinguish it from anything else? And then eventually it got into, well, how can you avoid sense gratification? Because you have senses, so you have to gratify them somehow. And then it got to, I see. So Krishna has senses as well. So Krishna is the supreme, and he has the supreme senses. So my goal should be to satisfy Krishna's senses and not my senses. So that's this gradual understanding. But then you have to get to understand. Then who is Krishna? Who is this Krishna whose senses we have to satisfy by our activities? So this is because we're wondering, where is Krishna? I mean, this is what's going on in the world so much today. People don't know who Krishna is, or where Krishna is, or what Krishna is. You know, I was listening actually to Bhakti Churraj actually explaining, and before he came to Krishna consciousness, he went on. He was quite successful materially. Actually, he was living in Germany, and he thought that, the West is the best, so therefore I must leave India, go to Germany. But then, after a while, he got to understand, well, this place is not such a wonderful place. Actually, people they're not happy. It's very clear. And then he started to study the Indian scriptures. So then what he did was he went back to India and started to wander around India looking for, and he understood that he needs a spiritual guide. So he went around to a lot of places, but he went to Hardwar, Rishikesh, but he wasn't satisfied with what he was finding, because he found that people who were declaring themselves to be sannyas, they were just basically, they were not doing very much. They were just, they didn't really understand very well what was there in the scripture. And although he did meet some good souls, no doubt about it, and he met some very nice people as well. But he still had this understanding of somehow that the Brahman, that our idea is that we reach Brahman, and then we get liberation that way. So, but he hadn't really a clear understanding. And then I think he went back to Calcutta then, where he was from, and he got a book called The Nectar of Devotion. And it's a book that we're studying at the moment, actually, which is really amazing. And that book was all about Krishna and who Krishna is. Now, as been brought up in Calcutta, Krishna was part of his life, and but he didn't understand that Krishna was God. And the thing that really most affected him is that Krishna is a person, because he just didn't find that in the scripture, and he didn't find people who understood that. So that's why we know that it's not that easy initially to understand who Krishna is and whose senses we must satisfy in that sense. So therefore we have to develop we have to develop faith in Krishna as well as knowledge, because as it's explained here in the scripture, it's explaining who Krishna is. Bhagavad Gita gives us so much description of Krishna. We have a Krishna book here, and it's given to us in an authorized way by Srila Prabhupada. So the knowers of Krishna can give us Krishna because they know Krishna, and we must have a little bit of faith. So in order to make ourselves qualified, basically, to make ourselves in the right frequency. It probably is a good way to put it. And of course, Krishna is in everybody's heart. Is in our heart as well, as the Chaita Guru, and can give us knowledge from beyond, basically from the spiritual dimension. But the most important thing I think that we have to realize is that Krishna is, Bhaktaram Yagatabhasham Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. Suridam means he's the greatest friend. So Krishna is in there as our greatest friend. And that is, we have that knowledge and we're given that knowledge, and therefore we start to cultivate that relationship with Krishna. How he's our greatest friend, how he looks after us, and how we have an intimate relationship with Krishna. An intimate relationship is actually the most intimate relationship we can have, with God. So therefore, that is a good way in which we actually explain to people. Where everyone here has been practicing Krishna consciousness for a long time, so this is kind of like a basic principle, but it is that we try to, because we have a desire and a need for intimacy, that we're just not on our own. Therefore, we project it into the world, and we try to find an intimate relationship everywhere, and unless we understand that relationship is ultimately meant for Krishna, we're going to be disappointed. But when we have an intimate relationship with Krishna, then we'll never be disappointed. And the amazing thing is that even sometimes when it appears that Krishna is not treating us, or it seems to us maybe that he's being a little harsh on us or heavy or whatever, but that's only Krishna's embrace as well. And it's because Krishna wants us to make advancement quicker, to go back to the ultimate relationship with him in the spiritual world. Anybody who's ever taught anything in school or who's done any type of training with people, sometimes it's very hard to get a message across. And because, as is explained here, we've come to the material world for many, many lifetimes. Like we're talking in the billions. We have, a huge amount of samskaras of enjoyment here, and enjoying separately from Krishna. So therefore, when this whole idea comes that we have to not just do that, but actually not try to enjoy our senses, but try to serve Krishna, then it's a little difficult for us to stay on track, to stay focused. So therefore, Krishna keeps on, training us, teaching us. Sometimes he has to hit us a little bit hard because he wants us to go back more so than we want to go back, because we're still have that tendency to try to enjoy here separately in the world. So that's kind of like a given, and which is very helpful to us because we can then therefore be introspective, and we can catch ourselves when we do stray away from the focus on Krishna. And this is the greatest gift that we can give in the association of devotees, is to be, very much controlling the mind and controlling our senses, and be introspective, and to see when we're actually going outside the limits and when we're trying to enjoy. Because that will remove our ego from the association of devotees, and then Krishna's more easily can function in there, and can make the association of devotees completely beneficial for everybody. I mean, this is ideally speaking, and then if we sometimes go into the ego platform, and we recognize, and sometimes the ego is so strong that it's very difficult for us to admit something or even to acknowledge it. and to acknowledge it to somebody else. And then the hardest thing is to apologize to someone else, and that's somehow or other, that's how Krishna has set it up. That if we do, in the words of if we do offend a devotee, or if our ego gets the better of us, and then we have to go to somebody to apologize, that's also the greatest medicine. Do you know? The feeling of humility that happens at that point is actually it's like an elixir. It's like a very rare perfume. I heard one time in the Dumna Maharaj was talking about there's one place in India where they have these extremely, extremely rare perfumes that one bottle costs something like, I don't know, some huge amount of money just for one little bottle. What's it called? What's it called? Attara. Okay. So it's well known that. So, but this humility is like that very. It's like the most precious, substance that we can get, and so Krishna sometimes will put us through a whole, difficulty in order to get that very precious metal called humility, substance, and even from my personal experience, I've seen it like in ISKCON. Sometimes I've seen Krishna is prepared to sacrifice even a project for some person to actually to experience the humility, like it's awe-inspiring. I mean, I've seen that in the past, that Krishna, he's not interested in the project if it's a great project or not. He's interested in you. He wants you to come back to him. So he's prepared to even sacrifice whatever so that somebody actually can make spiritual advancement. So that's why I'm saying that this instruction from King Rishabhadev is so important, because he wants the devotees to not to fall victim to sense gratification, whether it is gross or whether it is subtle. It says, as long as he does not know his real identity, he has to work for fruitive results, for sense gratification. And as long as one is engrossed in the consciousness of sense gratification, one has to transmigrate from one body to another. So we don't want to do this, we just don't want to go from one body to another. We've had enough. My mother used to say, you've had enough and I've had enough. We've both had enough. So enough is enough. So, it's like, it's just that it's just not worth it. We've kind of got ourselves into a good position in Krishna consciousness, that we're in a very auspicious movement in Parampara, coming in the line of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, through the great sages, great saints, great devotees, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. Yesterday was the disappearance day of Sanatana Goswami, and some people were comparing Bhakti Maharaj in that way to Sanatana Goswami, because everyone found him to be very much very gentle person, very gentlemanly, and very kind, and always inquiring about everybody's health, but at the same time very learned. Like, he translated all the Prabhupada's books into Bengali. That was his first service. And I was hearing this morning how with Hridayananda Maharaj, they also, at one time in 1989, they had to translate all the works of all the Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta. Maharaj was translating the Bengali, and Hridayananda Maharaj was translating the Sanskrit. So, he was very scholarly as well, and these are the qualities that we're coming in the line of these great personalities, and if you in the next few days, it's amazing to listen to, tributes by all the God brothers, because you can actually see when they're giving the tributes how great they are as well. How their appreciations are very powerful, and what they are considering, all the good qualities in the devotees. So we're in a very fortunate position in that sense. So we don't want to lose it. What we have to do is we have to steer our course very well, as best as we can. We have to keep ourselves spiritually fit, as conscientious as we can, as to be always conscious of Krishna. Even if we're not always conscious of Krishna, we can be conscious of Krishna's instructions. We're performing sadhana bhakti. We rise early. If we can't go to Mangal Arati, then we go to we chant our rounds, we read the books, then we hear class if we can. Every morning there's classes on now in Dublin Krishna Temple, or Krishna Island on Facebook, or on YouTube, or anywhere. There's loads and loads of classes constantly going on in the Bhaktivedanta manner or whatever. Anyway, I won't promote the opposition. I'm sorry, not the opposition. But no, Dublin Krishna Temple and Krishna Island. And so this way we can actually then perform our activities during the day, and in the evening time again we can hear the different sanghas and so on, that we listen to, and we get the so that's called the ISKCON sandwich. Start of the day Krishna consciousness, middle of the day seva or service or whatever, and then end of the day back hearing again, hearing about Krishna. So it's very, very powerful way. But this is about keeping ourselves spiritually fit. This is so important. And then the second part of the purport talks about prapanchikataya bhutya haribandhana sastana astana mamukshabi parichadyo vairagyam falgo katyate. So, and that basically means, this is one of the most important instructions by Rupa Goswami from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is that everything belongs to Krishna, and therefore the real renunciation is to use everything in Krishna's service. Just like we've been hugely successful with our Facebook Dublin Krishna Temple, and all the websites and all the different media that we've been using. This is real yuktam vairagyam. It's specifically for this age. It's so valuable because there's more and more people tuning in, just wanting to, their lives are lived almost on this phone or this, whatever. So we're crowding the airways with Krishna conscious material, and so therefore we try to perform all our activities or live our lives in such a way that we can do that. Even the Chaturvarna Maya Shishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha, in the sense that we live our life in such a way that everything is being used in Krishna's service. Like we may have a propensity, and we may have some work. But we use that work or the fruits of that work in Krishna's service. That's proper use, because Krishna owns everything, as we know. But we have a tendency of our kind of our natural, Hare Krishna. Thank you. It's we have our propensities to do activities, but instead we do those in Krishna's service. That's the thing, and even if it's like, for instance, we're working in a job in an office or in a bank clerk, whatever it is we're doing, we still can in the morning time have our Krishna consciousness, in the evening time have our Krishna consciousness, and then when we're doing those activities, we're thinking of Krishna as much as possible. So in that way, and then when we get an opportunity at the weekend or whenever, then when we get that opportunity, then we actually perform seva directly to the temple. There's so many things that we can do in the temple. Bring flowers for the deities. We can, make a contribution to the donation. We can. There's so many different activities that we can do in the service of Krishna. We have a whole notice board downstairs of the different things that we do. So this is the way in which we use everything in Krishna's service. That everything belongs to Krishna, so I'll conclude a bit early there and just say that therefore we have to try to perform service to Krishna, and we serve this institution, the ISKCON institution, because it's Prabhupada's institution, and basically it is a vehicle by which we can actually serve the whole parampara. The main function of the institution is to help everyone become Krishna conscious, and to give Krishna consciousness to everyone. So as soon as we're giving Krishna consciousness to everyone through literature, or on the street, dancing, singing, in workplaces. I know recently I was at I was listening to one seminar in ISKCON Silicon Valley, and one of the devotees was there, and he had just distributed 1 million Bhagavad Gitas, 1 million, through all the hotels all over America. He's putting the books in all these hotels. This is such an incredible service, to put this information in people's, in front of them. Because it's a way in which they actually can attain actual peace. Because that's the greatest welfare work, because you want people to live in peace. And it's the greatest important gift to give to people at this time, because there is a maximum degree of confusion and of distress in the world. It just, as soon as you think something is bad, that's the worst of everything, the next day something worse happens. It's an incredible series of events. So, but the reality of the ISKCON movement is that it was set up specifically to redress that. It's specifically set up so that it could bring peace in people's life, both individually and collectively. Each person who gets this book they actually can feel this peace. They actually will be able to feel an inner peace, which will give them respite against the what word would you use, Shani? Stringent laws of material nature. Yeah, very good. To quote it directly from Prabhupada. Or the vagaries of this material world. The onslaught of suffering in this material world. They give one actual peace, and that peace, then that resonance of that peace will help other people, because it's almost like an automatic thing. Once you're actually in the parampara and you're getting seva, you're doing seva, and that therefore the mercy is coming down, then you're an actual receptacle of that energy. And if someone is actually looking, then they can actually get that from us. It's not. You could say it's not that we're very benevolent. No, we're just serving the servant of the benevolent. We're the servant of the servant, in that sense. But we must do our part. It's like we have to keep ourselves together, and it is in the small things as well. It's not just you have to open up a big temple or anything. No, it's just you have to be maybe kind to somebody that you know. Do you know? And at a time when you're under pressure to somebody's done something to you or whatever, then you just have to live through that, to tolerate it and come around the outside of it and then see, how you can see it in a completely different light, just to be able to do that. And you do that as a service to Krishna. And then automatically that will affect someone else as well, who is waiting for you to, set up a whole battle of, but the other person then becomes disarmed, and then their good qualities come out, It's like, and then it becomes a competition, a different type of competition. So, okay, I'll stop there. Is there any comments? Anyone would like to add anything? Any?
The last thing you said is very good. When there is a conflict, so when we say something negative or somebody says negative to you, you just have to have that.
Yeah.
And really that stops all the competition and bring harmony.
It does, isn't it? Yeah. No, it totally does.
But not every time we can do that.
No, it's then we have to tolerate ourselves, or tolerate ourselves not being able to do that, instead of getting out a big stick and bashing yourself over the head or something. It's we can always gather ourselves up and kind of go back then and go back into the scripture and go back hearing again, and then get ourselves ready again for the next test. We were in Bhagavatam. We're reading where Krishna is putting Arjuna to the test, because it's from the Mahabharata, whereby the son of Drona. Who's the son of Drona? What's his name? Ashwatthama. Ashwatthama has been particularly heinous, and but Krishna is testing Arjuna to see how he will, because he's after giving the instruction. He's killed the 5 innocent children, so therefore, according to Manu Samhita, he should be killed. But Draupadi doesn't want to kill Ashwatthama, because she sees him as the spiritual master. He's the representative, and but Bhima is saying, no, you made the promise, you have to do it. So then he takes off his the jewel, the crown, that he has on his head, and that for is the same as or as good as. So Krishna is putting us to the test in that sense, so as to see how to allow us to make advancement. Actually, that's why Krishna puts us through the tests, because he wants us to make the advancement. Because we may have some confusion about why is this happening, or why is this happening to me, or why did this occur, or what's the reason for this. And Krishna's asking us to dig deeper. He wants us to know. He wants us to search out why it is that we didn't behave properly in some situation, and then eventually the knowledge will come. Krishna will provide Mata Smita Jnanam Apohanam Cha. He gives us remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So if we are sincere, Krishna will give us that enlightenment, and enlightenment is really what we're trying to do. We're trying to become enlightened, but we're trying to enlighten as much as possible the atmosphere in which we're living, and that's how Krishna consciousness is making a difference in the world, and by us actually cooperating together, that will give that. Will it'll make it easier for that enlightenment to happen, and so this is kind of our seva to Krishna. It can be as powerful, or it can be as small as in both ways. If we're not serious, or if we're not sincere, then it'll be like a very weak light. It's like a little bit like a glowworm in that sense. But if we're very serious and sincere, then it will be like a blazing, because it's like the fire of knowledge, and it will be able to cut through the dense ignorance in the world, which is personified in the news media not all news media, but in general, which is the dense darkness of ignorance, without having any idea what's going on. So in that sense, if the devotees can be powerful torches of knowledge, because that's the word we say, I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisance unto him. And there's no way we can pay back that torchlight of knowledge except to try to pay him back by bringing the torchlight of knowledge to others. That's the only way that we can actually bring them back. And His Holiness Bhakti Chura Maharaj was he was in Ujjain during the lockdown for maybe 3.5 months, and Maharaj, he has a green card to go to America, and just before he left, he was saying how he felt he couldn't stay just in Ujjain. He had to go and help the preaching that was going on in America, because there's some amazing project, I think, that's going on there in Orlando, I think it is, and that he's set up for years. And he just didn't, he felt like he was a leader and he was sitting back and not going. He says a leader has to lead from the front. So that's why he made his journey, over to America. And unfortunately, that's when he picked up the coronavirus in that sense, and then as we know, he left his body yesterday. But that's the courage in battle of a leader. That's what a leader is. So it's like a real example for us to cherish in our hearts for the rest of our lives what he was prepared to do. He's 74 years of old. He wasn't even supposed to. He's supposed to be cocooning, not going out. Just staying in. That was the advice, but he couldn't stay when there's so much preaching to be done. So that was his determination and his service to his spiritual master. He was so grateful that time when he picked up he said, after reading the first page of the Nectar of Devotion, just even the first page, that was it. He understood that this is my spiritual master. And he was 27 years old, I think. And, he'd been a scholar and everything. And he'd gone all over India, and he couldn't find, he couldn't see a guru that he was satisfied with. And then he just picked up the first page of Nectar of Devotion, and he understood that Prabhupada was saying that Krishna is a person. And he then immediately everything changed for him. And then so that's 40-something years later. He's dedicated every last ounce of his strength to give Krishna consciousness, and that's how he was repaying his spiritual master. Okay, is there any other comments? Oh yeah. Who's they? Oh, Agni. Okay. Okay, great. Actually, thank you. Okay, so we'll stop here. We're going to have a kirtan. So I was wondering if you could we do an arti? Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So we can have the arti online as well. Okay, so we're going to have the arti online. So we're observing social distancing, remember, 2 meters apart. And we have, I think it's roughly 10 people in the room. Maximum we can have in the room with 2 meters apart is I think is 14 or something like that. So we're going to have our arti. So can you read?
From 22 5.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.